Old Town. Old Town has restaurants, bars, comedy clubs. It's where Second City is if you are interested in seeing a show there. But one of the restaurants in Old Town is Twin Anchors. Twin Anchors was used in The Dark Knight. It's in that scene where Two-Face is hanging out at the bar. The other cool thing about it, Twin Anchors was Frank Sinatra's favorite restaurant in Chicago. Whenever he came to town, he'd stop by, have dinner, put on a show for whoever was lucky enough to be there that night. He's got his own booth, it's got his name on it, you can sit in it. It's pretty cool. Twin Acres is also said to have the best ribs in Chicago, which is a low bar. Chicago is not known for the ribs, but it's a good restaurant, it's got cool stuff. I recommend checking it out. And I think last Batman fact of the tour, if you saw the most recent one, The Batman, featuring Robert Pattinson, at the beginning of the movie he fights a bunch of people on a train platform. That is one of the Brown Line train platforms here in Chicago. But now we are making our way back into Wolf Point. And on your right we have the new Veen building, this one with a curve to it. I've said a lot of stuff about Batman, but I promise other things have happened in our city. In fact, the new Veen building happens to be where Ferris Bueller's dad looked out the window onto the parade below in that famous Chicago film, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, it may look contemporary, but the new Veen building is the oldest building in Wolf Point. It is from 1983. That is not that old, but considering all these others are about 6 or 7, makes a bit of a difference. Except for one of them, directly to your left, the Salesforce Tower, the tallest, glassiest of the bunch, is less than a year old. It is a very new building. In fact, it is the newest skyscraper in our city. Now, before we leave Wolf Point for the final time, we can truly appreciate how massive Merchandise Mart is, because that was the largest building in the world at the time of its creation. That is 73 football fields of office space, 7.5 miles of hallways, takes up 2 whole city blocks, and until 2008, Merchandise Mart had its own zip code. It is no longer the largest building in the world. It was quickly dethroned by the Pentagon. Nowadays, it is not even in the top 10. The current record holder is the New Century Global Center in China, which is 3.5 times larger than Merchandise Mart. That is a very big building. As we head out the other side of this bridge, on your right up against the wall of the Riverwalk, you will see a glass box full of projectors. That is for art on the Mart. And on evenings in the summer, those projectors display an animated art presentation onto the entire side of Merchandise Mart. I think it's very cool because the projectors are designed to avoid the windows. They only display around them so it doesn't bother anybody working inside. Everybody else thinks it's cool because it's free, and there's not that much free stuff around. Take it where you can get it. If you are interested, Art on the Mart is still going on, so if you find yourself along our lovely Riverwalk at 7:30 p.m., you will get a beautiful free art show. And if you miss it tonight, it is literally every night until the middle of November, so you got some time. They did just change it for the fall season, and the show is now about the environment and AI, if that is your sort of thing. And if you're looking at Merchandise Mart and thinking, it can't be that big of an art show, it's displayed on the entire side of the building, which is 2.5 acres. So you're wrong, it's a very big art show. Now coming up ahead of us on your left, we have this short red brick building with a clock tower. That is the Reed Murdoch building, and it has done a lot in its lifetime. It is currently home to Encyclopedia Britannica, but at one point or another, that was a grocery warehouse and even a makeshift morgue. But that building is not like other buildings. It's a little quirky, because it's actually asymmetrical. In 1930, LaSalle Street right ahead of us had to be widened. And to do that, they just chopped off part of this building. So as we head out the other side of the bridge, you will notice there are 5 bays of windows on the left. The clock tower is the middle, and there are 6 bays of windows on the right. And don't feel too bad if you missed this on the way in. As soon as they made that change, they adjusted the facade so it would be almost unnoticeable. Unfortunately for them, that was in 1930, so a lot of people have noticed by now. And you have 5 windows on the left, 6 on the right. Now we go from a short building on your left to a short building on your right, because coming up on the other side of that bridge, there's the very short, very angry-looking building, 55 West Wacker. That is a brutalist style building. Brutalism came about in the 1960s, at the height of the Cold War, with lots of social unrest. Businesses and the government were nervous, and they didn't want to be seen that way. So they designed in the brutalist style, using concrete and raw materials. They wanted to evoke this feeling of an impenetrable fortress right in the center of our city. I just don't think they planned ahead for the future on this one, because this building is now known as Danny DeVito between two supermodels, which is not the cool look they were going for. Supermodel right next door is the Leo Burnett building. It is a mystery. It does not fit into any one style of architecture, so there is not much to say about this one. Luckily for them, the inside is home to the Leo Burnett Advertising Agency, which has created such iconic characters as the Jolly Green Giant, Tony the Tiger, Toucan Sam, the Keebler Elves, and the Pillsbury Doughboy. As we head out the other side of this bridge, further down on your right, we have this building with the round domes on the outside edges. That is the Jewelers building. And it got that name because it was built to house high-tech offices for jewelers. In fact, it was built with an automobile elevator inside, so you could drive your car into the building and be taken to a higher floor to avoid any potential jewel thieves. Everybody's favorite part of the building is usually that dome on top. That used to be home to the Stratosphere Lounge, a high-end restaurant in the roaring 1920s. It was rumored to be a speakeasy run by Al Capone. That is just a rumor. Al Capone was in prison at the time, but it's a very cool rumor. I encourage you to spread it. Now, speaking of Al Capone and some of his favorite activities, coming up on your right, on the other side of this bridge, right behind Morton's The Steakhouse, will be a skinny green building with gold foil on top. Now, that building is carbide and carbon. It is meant to look like a giant bottle of champagne because it was built as a protest during Prohibition. Chicago said, if I can't drink alcohol, I'm at least gonna look at it. Although, trust me, Chicago is still drinking alcohol. That's why Al Capone was in prison, and taxes, and some other stuff he did. But that gold foil on top is 24 karat gold. So if you've got suction cups in a Spider-Man suit, commit 2 crimes. Climb buildings, steal the gold. Just kidding, please do not do that. You would not get much for it anyways. That gold foil is thinner than aluminum foil. It would just be a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Now once again, we're looking straight ahead at the Wrigley building, but peeking out from behind it on the right is the Tribune Tower. That is a Gothic Revivalist style building. Gothic Revivalism just means America was borrowing from France. But this building was built because Robert R. McCormick, the publisher of the Chicago Tribune, set up a contest to see who could design the most beautiful office building in the world. This was the winning entry with its grand Gothic features and the flying buttresses, those decorative bridges at the top. Then to prove it was the most beautiful building, they took stones from other beautiful buildings and put them into the walls of this one, all around the bottom on the outside. If you get the chance, I suggest checking it out. It is pretty cool, but it is very subjective, because they took stones from beautiful buildings like the Great Wall of China, the Taj Mahal, and Wrigley Field. And I'm not sure those three are equals, but that is for you to decide. And just starting to come into view behind it, you can see an Art Deco building with an onion dome on top. That building is the Intercontinental Hotel, and that onion dome is a dock for blimps. Unfortunately, no blimp ever landed there, and if you're familiar with the most famous blimp ride in history, I don't think we're ever going to see a blimp land there. Those are not really in style anymore, but it's cool that they still have it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I recommend looking up the Hindenburg, which happened a little bit after that building opened. Some pretty poor timing. Now on your left, all that glass, that is the Apple Store. It is a bit of post-modernism, because they designed the roof to look like a giant iPad. More importantly, right next to it, in between Fidelity Investments and University of Chicago, you will see a canyon of buildings. All the way at the end of that canyon is the John Hancock Tower, the 5th tallest building in Chicago and one of the most iconic. If you want a photo, now will be the time. We only get a brief glimpse from the river, but it will be the black box modernist building with 2 antennae on top, right in between these 2 buildings. And the Sears Willis Tower has the sky deck and the ledge. The Hancock Tower has the 360 and the tilt, if you're interested in doing any of those. If you are interested, my recommendation would be go to the Sears Tower during the day, go to the Hancock Tower after the sun has set. It's right in the center of the city, so at night when everything is lit up, it looks beautiful up there. If we look back to the other side of the river, we have this building at an angle, the Swiss Hotel. It's actually a triangular-shaped building because it was designed by Harry Weiss, that same architect who did the River Cottages. That man really loved triangles. So much so, he designed a very similar-looking building to this one further downtown. That other building is called the Metropolitan Correctional Center. So given the choice, I would stay at this one. And coming into view right behind it, there's all those wavy balconies. That is Aqua Tower. Each unit in that building has its own unique balcony, which gives it this lovely waterfall effect. But it is done with a purpose, because each balcony is strategically placed to enhance views and maximize solar shading. It is a very smart thing to do, done by a very smart architect named Jeannie Gang. We're going to talk more about her in just a minute.